Hi, I'm Kevin Sharp, and today on this Theory of Life video from Gemini Outdoors, we're going to be talking about something that everybody seeks but few people find, and that is peace of mind. Like I said, everybody seeks it, including myself, and it's a very hard thing to find sometimes, especially in all the hustle and bustle of life. It's really hard to find that peace of mind sometimes. It's really easy to get angry. It's really easy to get depressed. It's really easy to get annoyed. And finding peace of mind is very important to a person, especially in this, like I said, this busy world that we live in nowadays. You got so many things that distract you away from that peace of mind and what it means to you. To start off with, I mean, when you're seeking peace of mind, you've got several things that you need to be aware of. If you're searching for peace of mind, the first thing that you have to start with, if you're seeking peace of mind, you have to talk about yourself first. That's the number one thing. You can't make other people happy if you're not happy yourself or at peace with yourself. So the first thing that you have to address with that is, what are your issues? What are your demons? Are you an alcoholic? Do you have a drug problem? Do you have something that is interfering with your peace of mind? I've known a lot of alcoholics in my time. I've had issues with alcohol myself in my past. Demons, can also be if you went through abuse as a child, and I went through that as well, and it can be a lot to overcome. It's something that you have to face eventually, and it can be very difficult. Sometimes people don't like to look in the mirror. I know it took a lot of effort on my part to become a better person and to find that peace of mind within myself, in order to be able to find happiness, because I truly do believe that you have to find peace before you can find happiness. And one way that you can find that peace and find that happiness is, you have to ask yourself your question: what do you love? You already know what you hate, what makes you angry, what ticks you off. Usually it's actually things from outside of you that make you angry, that brings the stuff that's inside to the surface. And dealing with that can be very, very difficult. So like I said, what do you love? What really gets your juices flowing for yourself? For me, it's always been the outdoors. It's been the outdoors. It's been a combination of sports. I'm very intellectual. I like to learn stuff. So all that kind of stuff, you want to enamor yourself in it. You want to surround yourself with that. You want to surround yourself with positivity. You want to keep all those negatives away, and I'll talk about that upcoming in the video. But anyways, like I said, you have to start with yourself. If you're not at peace with yourself, you're not going to be able to make the other people around you, your family and friends, they're not going to have a very pleasant experience with you. With me, like I said, I go back to alcohol, and a lot of people don't realize that I did have a little bit of an alcohol problem when I was younger, but a lot of that was dealing with the abuse that I suffered from my stepfather. And like I said, you go through negative stuff like that, and you have to deal with it. You can't ignore it. It's going to come bubbling back up on you, and it did me, and it cost me a lot before I finally dealt with it, put it behind me, and moved on. That can be one of the hardest things to do, is moving on from something like that. A lot of people get caught back in the past, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to get caught trapped in the past. You want to deal with the stuff that's going on today and focus on the stuff that's going to happen tomorrow, and that's how you get through things like that. Your marriage is a very important part of peace of mind. And me and my family, we've been dealing with this a lot here lately. And the very first thing I will talk about marriage is the husband and wife need to put the marriage first. I'm a firm believer in that. I've heard it said before, but I'm a firm believer in it. You have to put the marriage first. And what I mean by that is you need to get all your ducks in a row with you and your spouse, and you need to have goals put in front of you that both of you can agree upon. And you need to have a peaceful marriage and a happy marriage in order to get to a happy marriage. Excuse me. Sometimes, when you add in kids to that mix, it can be very challenging. It's challenging enough just as a husband and wife, but when you add kids and stepkids in particular stepkids, man, it can be a lot to handle. Being a step parent myself, being a stepfather, I can tell you from experience, being a stepfather has been by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. It is challenging beyond challenging. I mean, you have to remember that when you go into a blended family situation like I did, there's already stuff in place there already that you're, in the eyes of the kids, are intruding on. So basically, you're the outsider. And you have to remember, you got to be patient, especially with kids. You don't want to mess this up with the kids, because if you start off on the wrong foot with the kids, your marriage is already in a bad way before it even gets started. But you have to remember that you also have to stand up for yourself. You can't just let your kids or stepkids run all over you. You can't allow that to happen either, and have peace of mind, because it would be like the lunatics running the asylum. I mean, something sort of like that. And putting boundaries up it has a lot to do with that. You need to make the kids understand that there are certain boundaries that you can't go past, and making it understood that you're not their dad. It's when you're dealing with stepkids, you need to realize that you're not their dad, because they're going to play that card every chance they get. You're not my dad. You're going to hear that a lot. And you have to say, yeah, I'm not your dad, but I am your stepfather, and you are living in my house, and you need to respect my rules. And if you don't like that, then you may need to go live with your dad. You don't want that necessarily. I know I didn't. But sometimes you got to put that boundary there, and you got to say, okay, look, if you're living here, you're going to live under my rules. And that's just the way it's got to be. And then when I had my own son, y'all have seen him, little Boo. He's the love of my life. Having a child of your own, there's nothing like it, man. I remember when my son was first born, I couldn't explain to you the sense of joy, the sense of happiness that I had, and the sheer sense of terror in the fact knowing now it's not all about you anymore. You got this little life that you brought into this world, and they're looking at you to support them. So it takes a lot. It takes a whole lot. And keep that in mind. And then in any marriage, you're going to be dealing with outsiders. In my case, dealing with former husbands, dealing with in-laws, dealing with your own parents. Man, it is a lot to deal with, and having peace of mind through that can be very difficult, because you got all these other opinions coming at you that you may not necessarily agree with, and people trying to put pressure on your marriage. Maybe they're not meaning to do it, but they're putting pressure on your marriage, and it can cause arguments. It can cause a lot of things to build up, and then eventually, it leads to arguments, and the marriage not being peaceful and happy. Like I said, you got to start at peaceful before you can reach happiness, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. When you're having to deal with outsiders, the best policy to have about outsiders is listen to their opinions, value their opinions, keep their opinions in the back of your mind, but at the end of the day, it's your decision what you want to do. Always remember that. That's the best piece of advice I can give you. It's your ship. You need to run it. You need to be the one navigating it. You need to be the one in charge of it. Don't let other people run your marriage, because they will if you'll let them. And that's another thing that will help you get peace of mind. It's your ship. It's your choice. It's your marriage, and ultimately it needs to come down to you and your wife putting yourselves ahead of all this stuff, especially the outsiders and stuff, and dealing with, like I said, dealing with my stepkids' dad has been a lot to deal with, because you never know what that other person's going to do. Then you got to deal with the kids and their reaction to it. I mean, it can be very, very tough to have to deal with that, because you have to remember the kids' feelings, and then not only that, but my wife's feelings too. Sometimes she gets really angry and upset about some of the things that he does, and I'm sure vice versa is the same. But in the end of it, I have to keep telling her, what happens over at his house happens there. What happens here is for us to decide, not him. And you have to eliminate all influences like that, whether it be from like I said, make those boundaries clear with the kids. Don't bring that household over here. That's how I feel about it. It's part of it, but you need to keep that. What happens over at your dad's house over there, and what happens over here happens over here. And when you're spending time with us, you're spending time with us. And sometimes you have to make those boundaries, and it can be tough sometimes, and sometimes it can be really hard for the kids to understand. But you need to make them understand that it's not out of anger, and it's not out of hatred. It's out of love and peace, and that you're trying to establish peace here. And you can't do that if you're living under somebody else's rules, brought in by the kids. You just can't do that. So moving on in our peace of mind TOL, we're going to move on to friends, and where friends are concerned. In this life, I have learned one thing, especially about peace of mind. Friends can be a big asset, or they can be a big hindrance. You will have those positive influences, and where positive influences are concerned, I can count on my one hand here how many friends I have that I consider positive influences. Those are friends that are going to be there no matter what, who will have your back and who will help you out no matter what's going on. And there's very few of them. I don't care what anybody says. There's a lot of people out there that says, "Oh, I've got 1,000 friends and I think all of them blah 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 blah." No, you'll find out real quick when the chips are down. Those people are going to bail on you really quick. It's the ones that stay. Those are the ones that are golden. You better hang on to those. You better not risk your friendship with those, because you're not going to find that very often in a person. And with your friends, you're going to deal with negative influences too, negative things about their personality. And there's one friend in particular of mine. I loved him to death. I really did. I cared about the guy a lot, and I did consider him a friend. But they will bring you down with them if they can. What's that old saying? Misery loves company. This guy, he had a tough life, man. I mean, I know we all do, but this guy, he had it really tough. But a lot of the stuff he brought on himself. He got addicted to drugs, and that just basically dominated his life after that. It just got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse. And being a friend to him, you want to help him, and you kind of go along with them. And in some ways, what ends up happening is you become their enabler, and they know it, and they're going to abuse that. And eventually, it gets to a point to where you have to say, "Okay, enough's enough." And that's how I got with my friend. I'm like, "Dude, I can't watch you die, man." And unfortunately, that's what happened. I mean, it killed him. And there's not a day that don't go by that I don't think about him. There's not a day that don't go by that I don't wish he was still here, clean and sober and thinking good. He left this earth leaving a beautiful child behind and his family behind. And that it's just sad that demon got him. And that's why I'm talking about yourself. You have to deal with yourself first. You can't make other people happy or put other people at peace when you yourself are not happy and are not at peace. And that's what happened to him. Another thing about friends is you need to let them know when you need your space. Sometimes friends can interject themselves way too much, and they can smother you. I found that happening with me where my friends was concerned. If you let them, sometimes you just have to put that boundary out there. You have to say, look, guys, I can't do that. I can't go do that. Right now I need my space. I need to be myself. You need to be at peace with yourself, like I said. And sometimes friends can influence that. And sometimes you have to let friends know, hey, I need my space. I need to breathe a little bit on my own. I need to go do my own thing. I need to go do my own camping trip to clear my head. And a good friend will understand that and will leave you alone. Moving on from friends, then we're going to get into business and peace of mind with that. And that has been my biggest challenge here lately is business. Your job, your income source. When you got a good job, when you got a great job and you love going to work, there ain't nothing like it. There ain't nothing like it. But when you're like me, you don't really care for your job that much. And it really ain't the job. It's more or less the people that you got to deal with. Oh my goodness, I can't even begin to say how much my supervisor bothers me. I can't even begin to say it. You have to deal with those people, and those people will do absolutely everything they can to put you in a bad mood. That's their life's mission, and that's the way this person is that I'm talking about. I'm not going to name no names. But they love to put you in a bad mood. And the reason that they love to put you in a bad mood is because they can't stand their own life. It gets back to peace of mind. They're not at peace in their own life. When they go home, they're miserable. They want to come back. They want to make you miserable. And they'll do absolutely everything they can to accomplish that. I have been through absolute hell at my job because of my medical condition mainly. They can't gripe about my work. My work is good. They can't say that. They have not been able to say the first thing about my work. The only thing they can gripe about is, oh, well, you got a medical condition, and this one person will just drive it home every single chance they get. I went from working on night shift. I got rolled up one time for my medical problem. One time, and that's because it had gotten worse. The rest of the time, and nobody ever complained about my work. Nobody. No, not one complaint. I get moved to day shift to the department I'm in right now, and I've been rolled up, I think, 3 or 4 times for my medical condition, directly, things resulting directly from my medical condition, and I start laughing at it. I'm just like, these people on night shift took the time to understood what I was going through, and these people on day shift, they don't care about that. All they want to do is make themselves look good, to their uppers, to their supervisors and stuff, and it'll affect your peace of mind. I can't tell you how many times I've come home in a bad mood because of this person. And other people too, not just her. I mean, you have to deal with the brown nosers too, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. The backstabbers and all that you get when you're at work, having to deal with those kinds of people, And it's not, like I said, they can't say one thing about your work. All they can talk about is your medical condition, That's or they'll make something up. Oh, Kevin, he's doing this when he shouldn't be doing this, and the whole point of it is you're over here because that's where the work's at. So you got the secret to dealing with those people is ignore them. You will drive them absolutely nuts because what they want you to do, they want you to lose it. They want you to get mad and to start ranting and raving at them because then they can get rid of you for insubordination and all that other crap that they got wrote into their handbook. And I can already tell you from years of experience in warehouses and being employed that handbook is designed to be against you. It is absolutely 100% designed to be against you. So remember that before you lose your cool and go up to an HR office, because they're not going to be asking the supervisor all the questions that's sitting right next to you, who's been pointing the finger at you the whole time. Oh, they're going to be asking you, and you're going to look really bad if you go off half-cocked. Now, I'm not saying you can't say nothing back. I'm just saying watch how you say it and what you say it. Don't turn it into a shout match, and don't turn it into an insult fest. If you do that, you're going to lose. Period. And then moving on from that, let's talk about finances. Keep your finances in order. One of the best ways to mess something up is to get behind on your finances. I'm telling you, it will mess with you. It will mess with your head in ways that you never thought possible. So keep your finances in order. Be very aware of the loans and stuff that you're getting yourself into. Be very aware of what your capabilities are. Be very aware of yourself, what you're capable of doing, because things may change over time. Especially like if you've got a long time to pay this loan off or whatnot, if you got a mortgage or whatever, you got to think about, like me, my medical condition will affect that. So you got to keep stuff like that in mind. Because I can tell you, when a creditor is knocking on your door or blowing up your phone, you're not going to have very much peace of mind. So, and I know a lot of people who's dealt with that, who will tell you really quick, be really careful with your finances. It can get you in a lot of trouble really quick. And just touching on those points, all these points that I went over, I think the biggest thing is yourself. You got to be at peace with yourself before you can make the people around you happy. Your family depends on you. Your friends depend on you. And in order to have good relationships and friendships, you got to be at peace with yourself. You got to know, you have to be in control of your own destiny. And like I said, you need to find something that you can invest your time and effort into, like Gemini Outdoors, for example. This is my big escape, and that will help you be able to deal with stuff like that, because then things will sort themselves out eventually. Those demons will work themselves out eventually, if you find something that you love and that you appreciate, and then eventually you're going to find the right person. Like I found my wife, my beautiful wife. I love her with all my heart. I love my son with all my heart. I love my stepkids with all my heart. I can't imagine life without them. And, you can really mess that up big time if you're not at peace with yourself. So peace of mind is a very important thing. It's a very important lesson in life, and it's a very important theory of life. Peace of mind. Keep that in mind as we go about our day and we go about our lives. This is Kevin from Gemini Outdoors. Thank you for watching the video.